Hi, I'm Sophia Leone, and you're listening to the NCC podcast, where every episode I bring in an important guest and talk about issues facing Syracuse. In this episode, you'll be hearing from the 16th District Legislator of Ocondaga County, Charles Garland. We talk about everything from his personal experience with the crime in Syracuse, the lack of diversity and community representation within the police force, and Garland's solutions to it. Stay tuned. That's the bustling sound of 401 Montgomery Street, where Charles Garland works. I had the honor of meeting him at the legislative office. So please introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Charles Garland. I am a third-generation funeral director. I'm owner of Garland Brothers Funeral Home. We have the distinction of being the oldest minority-owned business in central New York. We opened up in Albany, New York, 1929. We opened up in Syracuse, 1936. I am also the Onondaga County 16th District Legislator.
So you said you were third-generation funeral home owner, but how did you get interested within politics?
Within politics, I was always interested. I would volunteer and things like that. I was at a store, ran into somebody. They said, Charles, would you be interested in helping out? All right, but then they asked me if I was interested, and I said, well, maybe. And then somebody called me, and in the middle of a snowstorm, a blizzard, when I thought that I had my day off and everything, I could rest, a group of people showed up in the middle of a blizzard, and they asked me. So I said, wow, if it's that important to them, I asked my wife, of course, because once again, you just don't jump into these things. And that was back in 2019.
And this is a pretty new position to you. How was it hard for you to learn the ropes to this job?
No. When you're running, all right, it's like when you look at the background of a lot of us, we already have, work experience, but more importantly, we're active already. As far as with the legislature, they stream the meetings. So as soon as I was asked, the first thing I did was, okay, what are the issues that they're talking about?
And how is the current crime rate in Syracuse, would you say?
Number one, we know what the crime is like in Syracuse. Just the fact that they had to hire some guy from Chicago, right, pay him $80,000 to come here to Syracuse to tell us you have a crime problem. That says everything.
It's ridiculous.
Right. Well,
yeah.
It's the incompetence, ineptitude, it's everything. It's terrible. If you read the newspaper, they just had it in the newspaper, my mother's house got shot up.
Can you explain more in detail what happened to your mother's house?
With the police, they were fast, a lot faster than they would normally be, and that was nice. But they are reactionary. A lot of people have to remember that. So once again, they have to, it's just the frustration, the ridiculousness of their lack of reality of the situation we're in. And like I tell people, we've got some of the smartest people right here in America. We can solve our own problems, but unfortunately, egos get in the way. And that's what you see a lot here in Syracuse. Unless it's their plan, unless they come up with it, then they're not interested.
So you had been wanting to install cameras all throughout the city for a few years now. Does it anger you that this individual could have been caught if there was a camera?
Yes, but it's the frustration, the anger. It's you can't even put it into words. We have been demanding cameras, but we've gone through every avenue, through the mayor, the chief of police. They've got regional captains, Southside TNT. Southside TNT, we wrote them, we petitioned them. They don't live in the area. You've got their perceptions, and unfortunately, we've got the public safety committee here. I was on it. No other African Americans, lack of diversity. I brought it to their attention about problems at Hillbrook. I brought people in. I told them, hey, somebody's going to sue you. What happened? They took me off the public safety committee.
And how does that lack of diversity affect the legislation that happens?
The legislation that they want goes through. But it's like this us against them thing. And it's just sad, because you realize that, look, you can reach common ground, but they just don't want to.
Yeah, so going off of that, Officer Malinowski.
Yes, nice guy.
Yeah,
nice guy.
I talked to him a lot for my classes. Says putting up cameras is a priority, but it's not as simple as it may seem. So Why aren't they pushing for, do you believe, they're pushing to get cameras? Because from my perspective, it would help make their job easier.
I like Officer Malinowski, but that's not true. If you're going to use the excuse now about we don't have the manpower, we don't have the resources, when you say you've got $123 million in ARPA funds just sitting there, gaining interest, I would like to think, because you don't have it in your backyard, all right? If we have the funds, if we have all these things, what is the true reason?
And why do you think they're not doing it? They're not placing the cameras where they should be?
Because they don't want to. It's just that most things, you really don't have to overthink it. Crime is an institution. They put them where they want to, because that's what they do. And once again, with the cameras, with these guys, they always say, we have to apply to, like, Syracuse TNT. Southside TNT meets right in the ghetto. The guy that runs it lives off of Velasco Road, right in back of Wegmans. Why the hell you got some guy that lives in Westville?
He's not in the community.
Yeah, you've got people that aren't, and so that means that you're dealing with what they think.
So it's the people who aren't living in the community that think they know what's best for it and think they know how to solve all the problems, but obviously they don't because they're not living here.
You have to be in that room where they say, all right, this is where these cameras are going to go. I'm not in that room. I'm pretty sure nobody that looks like me is in that room. I'm pretty sure that nobody that lives on my block is in that room, right? They've got elected officials. They're tokens. I mean, some people, they want to speak up, but they don't want to speak up contradicting, what, the person paying them is saying. I'm self-employed. I have resources. I can bear more of a risk.
You can speak out.
But because I can do that, now I have a responsibility.
And within the next couple of years, do you foresee them installing the cameras?
Yes, I do, because I'm going to be vocal about it, and so yes.
And have you guys, meaning your team of legislators and the police, been going back and forth, butting heads for a while about different ideas about how to fix the crime rate?
Okay, well, when we had our meeting, me, Chief of Police, Mayor Walsh, other elected officials, I've mentioned it over and over again. Preemptive gun laws, there's only 5 states where municipalities, right? That means that Syracuse, Onondaga County, we could make our own gun laws, but they don't. And that's what I asked them. I said, why aren't we sitting? We could be a leader.
Yeah, take action.
Yes.
Make your own rules,
Right.
make the community safer.
But they don't. And I said, we could make our own laws about gun control, guns have to have safeties and things like that. So that all goes back to knowing that we can do this, and they don't. The big question is, why?
I was just going to ask, why
Yeah.
do you believe they don't do that? Is that because there's a political thing? Because
I've already answered that, because they don't care. Because the perception of African Americans and poor and marginalized in the city, you have to understand the reality. If you accept the reality that you have people that basically they're latently racist, they're overtly racist. Some people aren't even racist. They just don't understand it. If, you didn't think about it, maybe you're not going to like it, But me, I'm like, hey, I'll come up with the idea. You want to take credit?
Yeah.
Go for it,
At
sister.
least we're getting
action. Right. And anybody that knows me knows I'm modest. I could care less about, it's all about the end.
Getting the final product done and out for the people.
Yes, it's all about the end.
Because this area, New York, can make your own laws regarding guns.
Yeah, preemptive laws.
Preemptive laws. What laws would you enforce?
Said, number one, why don't we just say, okay, we're not going to issue them firearms that have no safety. When these Glocks first came out, and this is the whole thing, all right, you're young. With the Syracuse Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, they used to have like these studies that came out, every month. Accidental shootings, misfirings. And they were all over the place.
Yeah.
They're giving these officers guns that don't have safeties. They get in this situation where they've already gotten this heightened anxiety state. They jump out of the car, they got their finger on a gun that's loaded, and all it takes is a flinch. A flinch. And that's why these people get shot all the time. A lot of people forget Lee Hunt. You know who Lee Hunt was?
No.
He used to be the former chief of police. His sons broke into his gun cabinet, stole his guns, and sold them. One was used in a shooting. Yeah. See, but they don't talk about this.
It's all covered up.
All they do is slap the guy in the hand. This is the town that you're living in right now. And these are the people. This is the mentality.
It's a cycle that keeps happening.
You have to truly understand the mentality of the people that you are dealing with. Only then can you realistically look at solving the problem.
And do you think a way of solving the problem would be to getting like police members, officers who are from this area to actually understand what the people they're dealing with instead of outsiders?
If they talk about solving crime in the city, then they need to hire more officers that live in the city, that came up, because that's how you stabilize an area. But they don't do that. They go out and they get these officers from places like, Pennville, Blossville, all these little, places where God knows how many African Americans, minorities they've seen. If you want to solve, you get people that come from the areas, right? And then you give them incentives to stay in that area.
How many more shootings is it going to take for them to realize that they need to take action?
When one of their children is on Martin Luther King. Yeah.
Which is a sad thing to have to happen.
Unfortunately, but that's what happens with black, brown, marginalized people. The right person has to die. The right person has to overdose. The right person has to be raped.
I feel like they already have blood on their hands. I mean, they should be taking more action about...
They have the perception of black and brown. They can say whatever they want. But there's no saying, I can't hear what you're doing. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly.
Thanks for listening. That's all I have for this episode, but be sure to check in next time for NCC News Podcast. I'm Sophia Leone.